Section 8.5 notes. Central question. How do you subtract rational expressions with unlike denominators? To do this will be the answer to your central question. Steps to add or subtract rational expressions. Find a least common denominator if needed. May need to factor the denominator to help do this. Step 2, change the denominators by multiplying the top and bottom by something that will change the bottom to the least common denominator from step 1. Step 3, add or subtract the numerators to make it one fraction. Step 4, simplify by factoring, stating the restrictions, canceling, and then write your final answer. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. All right, this one, they are already like terms, okay? Or they have like denominators, x plus 1, x plus 1. So we can add the top. So it would be, we combine like terms, 4 plus negative 2 will be 2 plus 2x. And I don't care if you write it as 2 plus 2x or 2x plus 2 over x plus 1. Okay? Actually, let's write it the other way. Because the reason we want to write it the other way, let's write it as 2x plus 2. Okay? So right now we should state the restriction. Okay? Well, actually, let's factor first. So we can factor 2 out of that. So we factor 2 out, and we have 2 parentheses x plus 1 over x plus 1. Now we can cancel the x plus 1s, but before we do that, we want to state the restrictions. What makes the denominator go to 0 is x cannot equal negative 1. Okay, so because if you put negative 1 in the denominator, negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and then you divide by 0, which you can't do. Okay, so the last part is we can cross out those x plus 1s, and our answer is just 2. Okay, let's go to the next one. So the two answers, simplify it down to 2, and then x equals negative 1 is what our restriction. This one, again, same denominator, so we just got to combine like terms. We got 8. Let's do t's first. So 6 minus positive 3t is 3t. And 8 minus negative 7 is positive 15. Three t plus 15 over 3t. At this point, we should probably state our restriction. Since there's no plus or minus, t cannot equal 0. Okay, and then from there, we can simplify, we can factor the top, okay, factor 3 out, and we're left with 3 parentheses t plus 5 over 3t. Well, what we can do right here is those 3's, we can cancel those out. And we'd just be left with t plus 5 over t. Okay? And from there, we could simplify a little bit further if we want to. We could simplify t over t plus 5 over t. Okay, t over t is just 1 plus 5 over t. Okay, so I'd probably take this answer or this answer, but if you can simplify further to something different than the original, then we want to do that. Okay, so 1 plus 5t and t cannot equal 0. Okay. Next one, okay. Still, they're the same, so we could do 2x minus x, which is 1x, over. Now let's factor out, they both have a common factor of x, so we can factor out of x, so we're left with x plus 5. Okay, so at this point, we want to state the restrictions. X can't equal 0. And x cannot equal negative 5, because plug in negative 5 plus 5 is 0, and you can't divide by that. At this point, we can simplify. The x's can cancel out. So we're left with just 1 over x plus 5. Okay, and we can leave it pretty much like that. So that'd be our answer simplified. And that'd be our answer. X cannot equal 0, x cannot equal -5. Okay, on the next one. Now, example 2, we have some that don't now have the same denominator. So what we have to do is find the least common denominator. So I start with the numbers. What's the smallest number that 4 and 8 go into? 8. And then you just, if they both have the same variable but different exponents, just take the bigger exponent because that'll be the least common one. So 8x squared is the least common denominator. So then we have to ask ourselves, when are we going to multiply 4x by to get 8x squared? Well, we multiply by 2x. Okay, so we multiply by 2x on bottom and top because 2x times 4x will give us 8x squared. Okay. Now the other one is already 8x squared, so we have to multiply the right side, just the left side. So we have 2x times 3, which is 6x, over 8x squared, plus 2 over 8x squared. Okay. So then if we simplify that together, 6x plus 2 will be just 6x plus 2 over 8x squared. Okay. So we should state our restrictions, which 8x squared, what makes that go to 0 is, or 0, so x cannot equal 0 because there's no pluses or minuses. Okay. And if we separate this and simplify it, we're going to end up with exactly the same thing we started with. So let's just circle it and be done. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Again, we ask ourselves, what's the least common denominator of 2 and 3? 6. Smallest number that 2 and 3 go into. And then what's the biggest exponent? X cubed. So 6x cubed is what we want this to be. So then we have to ask ourselves, what do we multiply 2x cubed by to get 6x cubed? We're going to multiply by 3 over 3. Okay, so if we multiply by 3 over 3, we get 3 over 6x cubed. Minus, what do we multiply 3x by to get 6x cubed? Well, multiply it by 2x squared. Okay, on top and bottom. So then we get minus 8x squared over 6x cubed. Okay. Now at this point we have same denominator, so we can subtract them. So 3 minus 8x squared, let's write it in standard form. So let's write negative 8x squared plus 3. They're not like terms, so we can't really combine them. All over 6x cubed. Now again, if we separate this and simplify, we're going to end up with the exact same answer we end up there. So let's just leave it like this. And we still need to state our restrictions, which will be x cannot equal 0. Okay. Because there's no pluses or minuses. 0 cubed is 0. 0 times 6 is 0. Okay. Let's go to the next one. All right. Again, what's the smallest number that 4 and 3 go into evenly? It would be 12. And then you just take the x to the 5th. Okay. So what do we multiply 3 by to get 12x to the 5th? Well, it'll be 4x to the 5th. We're going to do that on top and bottom. Okay, remember you got to do it on top and bottom. It's just multiplying by 1. And then divide by itself is multiplying by 1. So it's not changing it, or we're not changing anything on that. We're just trying to make sure that the same denominator. This one, 4x to the 5th, we're going to multiply by 3 over 3. So we end up with 16x to the 5th over 12x to the 5th plus 15 over 12x to the 5th. Okay. So now we have that. We can combine like terms, or we can add those together, but they're not like terms, so just rewrite them next to each other. 16x to the 5th plus 15 over 12x to the 5th. Again, if we separate this and simplify, we're going to end up back where we started. So this is what we want as an answer. And we still need to state the restrictions, which is x cannot equal 0, because there's no pluses or minuses, so that'll be your answer. Okay. Now, it gets a little bit difficult when you have x's and x plus 2. So how you want to go about this is the least common denominator, x and x plus 2, just multiply those together. The least common denominator will be x parentheses x plus 2. So basically what we're going to do is multiply this one by x plus 2 and multiply this one by x to make them have that. So multiply by x plus 2 and x plus 2. I'm going to multiply this one by x and x. Okay, so when I do that, 1 times x plus 2 is just x plus 2. And the bottom, just always leave it in factor form. So x parentheses x plus 2. You don't have to distribute the bottom. Then you multiply the other one, and you have 3 times x is 3x over x parentheses x plus 2. Okay? So then we can combine like terms because we have the same denominator. 1x plus 3x is 4x, so we have 4x plus 2 over x parentheses x plus 2. Okay? If we want to factor the top, we can factor out a 2, so it'd be 2 parentheses 2x plus 1 over x parentheses x plus 2. But by factoring that, we don't really simplify anything, so you can just leave it like this as our answer, okay? Because nothing you can cross out, there's nothing that's the same. Now we still need to talk about, all right, we still have to state the restrictions, which would be, for that, it would be x cannot equal 0. And for this, it would be x cannot equal -2. Okay, so those will be our answers for that one. Okay. Let's go look at the next one. What's the least common denominator of 9x squared and 3x squared plus? The first thing you gotta do is factor the bottom. So let's rewrite that. 7 over 9x squared plus x over, you can factor out 3x, and you'd be left with x plus 1. Okay, so you gotta start with the, 9x squared and 3x, the least common denominator of those is 3 goes in, least common denominator of 9 and 3 is 9. Okay, then you just take the biggest exponent, so x squared, but then you got to attach that x plus 1 with it. So that would be the least common denominator. Okay, so what do we have to multiply the left side by to make that the least common denominator? We have to multiply, it already has a 9x squared, so we just got to multiply by the x plus 1 on top and bottom. Okay, and what do we have to multiply the other side by to make it 9x squared? Well, it has 3x. It already has the x plus 1. So 3x times what gives us 9x squared? That would be 3x. Okay, so then we scroll down, and we're going to multiply, just basically distribute. So 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 1 is 7, so we have 7x plus 7 over, when we multiply those together, we're just going to leave it as, remember, you don't distribute the denominator, just be 9x squared parentheses x plus 1 plus, and 3x times x is 3x squared over 3x times 3x is 9x squared parentheses x plus 1. Okay, so then we can add like terms. 3x squared plus 7x. None of those are like terms, but we can write in standard form. So we'd have 3x squared plus 7x plus 7 all over 9x squared parentheses x plus 1. Okay. And that would be our answer simplified all the way. You can see if that factors, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Factors of 21 add up to 7. What do you get? 3 and 7. No way 3 and 7 is going to make 7. 21 and 1. No, there's nothing. So you can't factor this. So that's pretty much done. Okay, so then we got to state our restrictions. For 9x squared, it'd be x cannot equal 0. And for x plus 1, it would be x cannot equal -1. So that'd be your answer, and that would be your answer. Okay. Let's go to the next one. All right. Again, what we have to do first is factor. So let's factor that. We got x plus 2. On the bottom left, we can factor out a 2, so we'd have 2 parentheses x minus 1. Okay. Minus -2x minus 1 over, we factor the bottom of this one. We got factors of 3, that adds -4. which would be -3 and -1. So we'd factor in x minus 3 and x minus 1. Okay, so then we got to find the least common denominator. Well, they both share an x minus 1. This one has an x minus 3 and this one has a 2. So basically we're just going to smash this all together, and the least common denominator is going to be 2 parentheses x minus 3 x minus 1, because now you're incorporating everything each other one has. So then we just got to multiply by the missing part on each side. 2 times x minus 1 doesn't have x minus 3, so we're going to multiply this side by x minus 3 and x minus 3. Okay, this side is missing only the 2, so we're going to multiply this side by 2 over 2. Okay, so then if we keep going, x minus 3, x plus 2, we're going to FOIL that. X times x is x. X times x is x squared. We got 2x minus 3x, which is -1x. And then -3 times 2 is -6. Over, and again, we're not going to FOIL the bottom, just leave it as it is. It'll be 2 parentheses x minus 3 parentheses x minus 1. Just write them all next to each other. Okay? Minus, we got to multiply the top, so 2 times -2 is -4x. 2 times -1 is -2. Over, and again, we're just going to write it all together. 2x minus 3 and x minus 1. At this point, we can start simplifying together. Okay. We don't have any x squared terms. We got -x minus -4x. -x minus -4x. I'm writing this offside because it could be easy to make a mistake. -x minus a negative is going to make it positive. -x plus 4x will be 3x. Okay, then we got -6 minus -2, so -6 plus 2 would be -4. So it's really easy to make mistakes on those double negatives, so you want to maybe write it off to the side, make sure you don't make that mistake. Over 2 parentheses x minus 3 parentheses x minus 1. Okay. Let's write our restrictions. Okay. So our restrictions would be x cannot equal 3 and x cannot equal 1, because I'll make those go to 0. Now, the last step, what we should do is try and factor this. Top factors -4 to add up to 3. So I think 4 and -1 would work. Yeah, it would. 4 plus -1 is 3. 4 times -1, -4. So we can factor the top and make it x minus 4 and x, or x plus 4 and x minus 1 over 2 parentheses x minus 3 and x minus 1. Well, at this point, you can see that we have two duplicates, so we can get rid of those and simplify it as x plus 4 over 2 parentheses x minus 3. And that would be our final answer. Okay, so you got to make sure, if you can simplify the top, that you do that. If you can factor the top and simplify across the amount, do that. On this other one, on these, we couldn't do that. There's no factoring, there's no factor simplifying. Okay, but this one you can, so make sure you do that if you can. Okay, so make sure you just follow your steps closely and get that down. All right, let's go to the next one. First thing we need to do is factor the right side. So we got 1 over 3x squared minus x over, we take out a 3x. So we'd have 3x minus 4. Okay, if we factor out 3x. Okay, so then what's the least common denominator? Well, it's going to be 3 and 3, greatest common factor is 3. X squared is the biggest exponent. And then we got to attach that 3x minus 4 as our least common denominator. Okay, so we're going to multiply the left side by, well, the only thing it's missing is a 3x minus 4. Okay, and then the right side, the only thing it's missing is 3x times x will give you 3x squared, so it's just missing an x. Okay, so when we multiply this side by 3x minus 4, 1 times 3x minus 4 is just 3x minus 4. That's easy enough. And then we're just going to leave that as we're going to leave this as 3x squared, parentheses, 3x minus 4. Okay. Minus, this side we're going to multiply by x. X times x is x squared, over x times 3x is 3x squared, parentheses, 3x minus 4. Then what we're going to do is combine like terms. Okay, so there's no like terms really, so we're going to subtract, we're going to write a standard form now. Negative x squared plus 3x minus 4 over 3x squared, parentheses, 3x minus 4. At this point, we should write our restrictions. What makes 3x squared go to 0 is 0, so we can write x cannot equal 0. And 3x minus 4 makes that go to 0 is add 4, set equal to 0 and solve. 3x equals 4, so x will equal 4/3. So that means x cannot equal 4/3 because that will make that denominator go to 0. If you put 4/3 in for x, 3 times 4/3 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. You divide by 0, which is you cannot do. Okay? If you want to check the top and see if you can simplify it, we don't want a negative x squared, so what I would do is factor out a negative and make it x squared minus 3x plus 4. All right, so you factor out a negative. Okay. And then you're going to factor this. So let's see, factors 4 that add to negative 3. Okay, factors 4 that add to negative 3. I don't think there actually are. You got 2 and 2, you got 4 and 1. You could do negative 4 times 1, but negative 4 times 1 gives you negative 4, and that's the only way to get negative 3. So you can't factor. So this is as far as you can go. You can leave it like this, or you can leave it like this. I don't care which one. They'll both be right. But you got to have x cannot equal 0 and 4/3. Okay. All right, so this is your exit slip. Go back and think about what the steps are for this abstract rational expressions. Find the least common denominator if needed. May need to factor the denominator to do this. Change the denominators by multiplying the top and bottom of something that will change the bottom to the least common denominator from step 1. Add or subtract the numerators to make one fraction. And then simplify by factoring, state the restrictions, canceling, and then write your final answer. So you need to follow those steps to solve this. If you have any questions, email me.